12 Democratic candidates are already campaigning for the right to face off against U.S. President Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election. We'll discuss the potential campaign issues and what is at stake for the Democratic Party. Plus, the U.S. House is expected to vote President Trump's declaration of national emergency along the southern border. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Caleb, sitting in for Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. Welcome, everyone. The U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote Tuesday on President Trump's controversial national emergency resolution. Now, earlier this month, the president bypassed Congress in an attempt to secure additional funds to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. We're going to begin our coverage this evening with CGTN's Owen Fairclough. Owen, what is the significance of the House vote and what could happen next?
Well, Sean, Donald Trump, the U.S. president, should be getting used by now to opposition Democrats making life more difficult for him. They made it difficult for him during that government shutdown in January that was ostensibly over funding for that controversial border wall. And now they're doing it again, expecting to vote to terminate the national emergency that President Trump declared when they only got a fraction of the nearly $6 billion or so he was looking for to build around 320 kilometers of border wall or fencing or barriers, or call it what you like, along that southern border with Mexico to stop illegal immigration into the United States. Now, it's expected that the U.S. Senate will follow that lower House of Representatives vote in terminating this national emergency. There are around 2 or 3 dissident Republicans who don't agree with President Trump's border security policy, who are expected to vote with Democrats, and that would mean effectively that Congress has turned against Donald Trump. It's worth noting the White House has already notified Congress that should that happen, should this national emergency indeed be terminated, President Trump will veto that. That would be his first. He's had a pretty easy ride of it for his first couple of years of his presidency, when, of course, Congress was controlled by Republicans. It doesn't stop there, though. If Trump does veto this, Congress could override it. The problem is it would need a 2/3 majority in both the Senate and the lower House of Representatives, and that would be much more unlikely. So it would appear Trump would get the upper hand. Sean.
Well, Owen, it looks like Trump could have the last word on all of this, but there are already legal challenges underway. Can Trump beat those?
This is where it gets really complicated, of course, and what's keeping legal experts busy right now over this. Of course, Trump will justify this, saying he has the authority under this national emergency to essentially siphon off defense spending and build some form of border fencing or wall along that border. It would be justified under military spending, and this is where it does get tricky. It depends how you define military spending. There are some legal experts who say that's fairly open to interpretation, and some kind of border wall for an emergency would constitute that, would justify military spending. It's also complicated, though, where you start building on private land along that southern border, and you could expect all manner of litigation as a result of that. So it goes on and on. It isn't clear, really, whether Trump could eventually win this, especially if he goes up against the Supreme Court. It's been a day, potentially a day of firsts, if Trump does veto this law, perhaps in mid-March, when it's expected to pass. Another mark of how the landscape has changed, Sean, is that the lower House of Representatives has begun issuing subpoenas to compel Trump administration officials to give evidence in its inquiry into the legality of separating families at that southern border.
Yeah, enough to keep you and all the journalists in D.C. busy for some time. Thanks, Owen.